Nervous about how your life is going to change now that you have an ostomy? How long do you have to wait before you can resume normal activities? Well, I only had my ileostomy for 7 months, so I've invited a friend to help me out with this topic. My friend Lisa, she was diagnosed with stage 3 rectal cancer at age 26, and as a result of her treatment, she ended up with a permanent colostomy. Now, we both had stage 3 rectal cancer, and our treatments were very similar, but she ended up with the permanent colostomy because the location of her tumor was lower in the rectum. If you're unsure what a colostomy is and want to learn a little more before watching this video, click up here to watch my video on what the 3 major ostomies are. Then once you're done with that, come on back over here to watch this video. Let me briefly introduce myself before we get much further into the video. My name is Jelena, and I received my rectal cancer diagnosis in 2016. I created this channel, Life as a Cancer Survivor, to talk about the ins and outs of what life is like once you hear those words, you have cancer. Make sure that you're subscribed, you've clicked that button below, and you're receiving notifications so you'll never miss any of my future videos. Now let's meet my friend Lisa.
Okay.
Hi Lisa, welcome to my channel. Before we get into living life with an ostomy, can you talk to us a little bit about the symptoms leading up to your diagnosis and what your treatment looked like?
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here. So, I was diagnosed with stage 3B rectal cancer in 2010 when I was 26. My symptoms leading up to that diagnosis were constipation, bloating, occasional blood in my stool, tailbone pain, and then eventually more and more blood when I went to the bathroom. I did see two doctors, and both of them kind of didn't take my concerns to heart. They said, "You're 25, can't be anything more than internal hemorrhoids. Don't worry about it. Eat more fiber." Okay. Well, my symptoms kept progressing, and finally I was like, "That's it. I have to see a surgeon. If this is internal hemorrhoids, like I can't live like this." I explained to him everything that I had been experiencing, and he believed me and decided to do a digital exam in office. And seconds into the exam, he stopped talking mid sentence. And I knew that's when something was not right. He was actually able to feel a mass with his digital exam. 3 days later, I had my colonoscopy, and that revealed a 7 centimeter tumor that was blocking 90% of my rectum. And then 2 days after that, biopsy came back as a diagnosis for rectal cancer. A few weeks after, I started 6 weeks of 5FU chemo along with pelvic radiation 5 days a week. I had my first surgery, which is when I got my ostomy. And then I also did a follow up of 6 months of FOLFOX IV chemotherapy. I then had a nice little 4 month remission vacation until July of 2011 when a very small tumor showed in the original spot as my first. So I was referred up to UPMC in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and had my second surgery there. And then after healing from that surgery, I did 6 months of the at home oral chemo Zolata and have thankfully been in remission since June 6, 2012.
Well, congratulations on being NED. That's always
Thank you.
an awesome thing to get to. Can you talk to us a little bit more about the recovery from surgery and maybe give our viewers a few tips on how to make that recovery a little more manageable?
Absolutely. So, for me, in my opinion, the most painful and toughest part of the surgery was absolutely the Barbie butt. Getting the ostomy obviously affects your abdomen. I was lucky enough that mine was laparoscopic, so it wasn't quite as invasive as it could have been if I did have to be actually opened up. With the Barbie butt, your anus heals from side to the or no, the inside to the outside. So that means a lot of laying on your sides, you got to switch it up. It means taking a cushion or anything that will make your bottom feel comfortable everywhere you go, like everywhere, the car, anywhere, restaurants, everywhere. And I know that my surgeon actually had to use magnesium citrate, like little matchsticks, to kind of burn the ending of the where it was sewn shut of the anus to help it heal. And That was not fun, but it was only a second of pain and it really did work. But yeah, my best advice is just kind of keep your weight off of it if you can. Always have a cushion, even if you don't think you're going to need it. It's always safer to have it with you.
Okay. So, what kind of physical activity were you allowed to do or able to do when you first left the hospital?
Not much actually when I left the hospital because again, the Barbie butt takes so much longer to heal in my case than the actual abdominal surgery. So I took it very easy for probably about a month and a half, other than like little things like I would go to the grocery store with my husband and walk around. I was able to bathe myself and do everything, everyday tasks for myself. But my surgeon did recommend, wait at least 2 months before you start doing anything super physical because, not only are you healing on the outside, but also with the ostomy, you're healing on the inside of your abdomen as well as the Barbie butt.
Okay. So, can you explain a little bit of what exactly the Barbie butt is for those that are unfamiliar with it outside of the colorectal cancer world?
Yes, absolutely. I had no idea either. So, a Barbie butt is when you have a complete rectal resection. So, they actually remove the entire rectum from your bottom. Um, as I mentioned earlier, they sew up the anus, and I mean, it looks like a Barbie doll's butt. So, they somehow sew the cheeks together. It looks normal, but it is not, I cannot open or spread my buttocks in any way. So that's what that is.
Okay, thank you. So, what activities did you do before your diagnosis that you wanted to get back into after surgery? And how long did you have to wait before you were able to do those?
So I grew up my entire life dancing. I started when I was 2, taking tap, ballet, jazz, hip hop, modern, everything. And at the time of diagnosis and treatment and surgery, I was actually coaching a local high school dance team. So I was doing that when I was diagnosed as well. So dancing for me has always been everything. My body is just not my body. It's kind of my art form. It's how I express myself. It's my own kind of free therapy. And that was something that I was so yearning to get back to. So those first few months after surgery when I couldn't do it myself, like thank goodness I had my students that I could watch, or I could just find videos online of things that inspired me of people dancing, and it just put in my back of my head that one day I'll be there and I will, I'll be the one dancing again.
Hmm. So, how long did you have to wait before you were able to? I'm assuming like you didn't jump full steam into dancing, like before you kind of started gently easing your way back in.
Yeah, it took a while because I also had a hysterectomy with my second surgery, and on top of the hysterectomy, that gave me a thyroid issue, so I gained a lot of weight. Um, and lots of aches and pains I wasn't used to. So I started out physical therapy myself about 2.5 months after surgery, just little things like, okay, I'm going to go and walk the yard with the dogs. Okay, maybe we could take the dogs around the block, okay, like the
Mhm.
next day, maybe let's go around the block 2 to 3 times. And I just would increase it until I felt like my body was keeping up with it. I started to lose the weight and it just kind of happened naturally. And then the first thing I decided to do, because I didn't feel comfortable health wise and physical wise going to a gym, I decided to kind of start doing things at home. So I took advantage of, what's on YouTube or on the TV and just started doing like little tiny workouts at home, which would make me feel comfortable, but also help me at the same time.
Okay. So, were you accepting of your colostomy right away, or did it take you some time to get used to it?
Yes and no. I think, the first time I heard the word permanent colostomy was by my surgeon, and it was super casual in conversation, like, just rolling. And I remember thinking, like, whoa, like, hold up 1 second, please. Like, I'm 26. My husband and I have only been married for 15 months. I'm a dancer. Like, What? Because I think in society, we're kind of hit with all these stigmas and myths and images of what a person would look like that has an ostomy. You picture an old man or an old woman, and in my mind at that minute, that's what I expected. That's what I was thinking of. And my doctor said, if you want the rest of your life, this is what's going to give you your life. And I said, okay, let's do it. So, I'm not gonna lie, after I woke up after surgery and the ostomy nurse was in there, I kept it together, and she walked out, and I looked at my husband Chad and I said, okay, this is my reality. So I need you to set your clock on your phone for 10 to 15 minutes. Please get out. Let me cry, let me mourn, let me cuss at the body that I'm not going to have anymore. And then pity party's over. So he did that, and I did that, and the timer went off, and I looked down and I said, thank you for saving my life, and continued on. She's been wonderful ever since.
So, do you ever get down about having a colostomy? And if you do, how do you deal with those down days?
So definitely in the beginning, there were more down days than there are now. I mean, I can't remember the last time I had a down day about my ostomy. In the beginning, I tried to be patient with myself. I tried to be patient with my body because I knew that it was still healing as well, as was my mind. And so I think for me, what worked best was just kind of listing the pros and cons of my head. Okay, con, if I didn't have this, I wouldn't be here. Pro, I'm alive, and it's just what I always encourage people to do is you just have to be patient with yourself, with your body, because it's like a major transformation that you're going through. And it's going to take more than a day, a week, a month to get to a place where you can accept it and learn to live with it and see how beneficial it definitely can be.
That's some great advice.
Thank you.
Nice. So, what are some things that you've done with your ostomy that people might not think is possible?
So I can say that my ostomy has absolutely stopped me from doing nothing. I am back in the world of dance. I teach ballet, jazz, and hip hop weekly to students that are, I think my age range is like 5 to maybe 12, 13. Um, so that means I'm in a leotard and tights every week. And my kids don't even really know what's going on. And also last year, I had the amazing opportunity to go to Colorado with Fight Colorectal Cancer and climbed a 13,000-foot plus mountain, which is bananas because I don't even think pre-ostomy Lisa thought she could ever do that. But I did, and it was absolutely amazing. So there isn't anything I cannot not do, if that makes sense. I can swim, I can shower, I can feel sexy still, I can dance, I can ride bikes, I can do anything that I did before my ostomy.
So, how do you conceal your bag while you're wearing like your ballet clothes? Do people
So
notice that you have one?
no, not at all. I think high-waisted jeans, leggings, bottoms are at least a female ostomate's best friend. Um, so that's what I rely on is high-waisted jeans when I'm out of the dance studio. In the dance studio, as I said, I have a leotard and tights on. Usually I will have a pair of leggings over top just for comfort, but it doesn't stick out. And I'm very lucky with my ostomy. I've had 10 years with it to kind of know its habits and how it's feeling and potentially what it could do. So know I don't really have to worry about it. If I do feel like my body's being a little bit unpredictable, I will wear like maybe like a higher raised pair of pants that just makes me feel more secure, but on a normal day-to-day basis they don't know.
Okay. So, are there any things that you can't eat with your ostomy?
There is not really. Everything in moderation is what I tell people. So if I want to indulge one day and maybe eat something spicy because I love spicy food so much, I know that the next few days I'm gonna have to kind of play it safe, and keep a more balanced diet because I know my output's going to be different. My husband is vegan, so that means supplementing meats with a lot of beans and tofu, and that's I look at that the same way. So if I indulge in his amazing burritos that he makes, I know the next day just to kind of play it a little safer and just know that, how it's going to affect my body and my output. But no, I haven't come across anything that I cannot eat. It's just in moderation.
Okay, well, that's good news for lots of colostomates out there or people facing an ostomy surgery. So, are there any unique challenges to doing ballet or and doing any other active activities that you experience now that you have the colostomy?
Not now, no. Now, when I first got my ostomy, as I mentioned, I did do 6 months of follow-up chemo. So that chemo, Folfox specifically, kind of causes an extra discharge that if someone has a regular butt would most likely come out of their rectum. So for me, it would come out of my stoma, which the stoma is the opening on your skin where the waste comes to be discarded. And I was prolapsing a lot, which means that, the inside of my stoma, which is part of my colon, was falling through, and that was most likely due to the lubrication from the chemo. So I wore a lot of ace bandages back then around my stomach to help keep it in. But now, no, I don't think I have any issues. I haven't in a while. It's definitely a journey that you find out what works for you and what doesn't work for you, and you know what to stick with, and you find out your own kind of tips and tricks.
Sounds good. Now, can you talk about any struggles that you've had with getting back to being active? Like if you've experienced lots of injuries or fatigue or anything along the way?
Luckily, I have not. Being a colorectal cancer survivor, though, and undergoing pelvic radiation that does affect our bones. So I obviously very careful. I also did have my tailbone removed during my second surgery, along with a lot of the right buttock was removed in the first surgery, the inner muscle. So it's really weird. Like if I fall, because I have 5 dogs, and going down steps, of course, they try to take us out. So if I trip or fall, it's really weird that my body like automatically knows not to fall on my bottom because my doctor said, like you don't have a tailbone, so it could be really, really bad if you actually fall on your bottom. Like there's no padding there. If that happens, you need to go to the ER. So yeah, I just find it really like kind of it's really cool that my body has adapted to know that if something happens, it's like whoop, you gotta twist. But yeah, so luckily, knock on wood, no accidents. But I'm definitely mindful of what my body has been through, especially, what's inside the muscles and the skeleton and everything, knowing that I have to be careful. I can't be a little daredevil anymore. I have to know my limits.
Okay. Do you have any like can't live without ostomy accessories that you always have on hand?
So I actually have a stoma that is like flush to the skin. So for me, the convex wafer from Coloplast has been an absolute game changer. Now it's curved, so it pushes the skin back and the stoma forward so that the output can fall down easier. And literally, like that has been such a lifesaver. I didn't know it existed for years, and then I found it, and it changed everything. Also, I feel more comfortable with disposable bags. I don't feel comfortable or secure with a drainable bag. Some people do, but for me personally, I like to have a bag that is one and done. It's opaque, you can't see through it. It has a filter so no odor escapes. And those two combined have just absolutely become my ride or die, and they will be products I use every day for the rest of my life.
So, what kind of words of wisdom or advice or encouragement when you would you offer to somebody that's facing an ostomy surgery or is currently struggling with their ostomy?
So, my best advice is, as I said before, just be patient and be kind to yourself because, as much as what's going on in our mind, our body is doing double to heal. And also, just to know that those stigmas and the myths that are kind of put in our heads by society or things we see on the TV or jokes that we hear that people make are not true. There's no truth to that. Um, don't believe the hype about how awful it is. I promise that it is going to make your life so much more beneficial. I know it has for me. It's changed my life. It's given me life, and I'm so, so thankful. But I think a lot of it is the mental aspect of it, and just to know you're not alone. There's so many of us out there that are trying to fight and fix these stigmas. And, if you are an ostomate, share your story because we're here to break that all together. And I think we really can because we're doing amazing things. And I want people to know that an ostomy is not the end of your life. It's not going to hinder your life. It's going to just make things so much better.
If you enjoyed hearing Lisa's story, please click on the like button down below here to give her some love. Having an ostomy can sound a little scary if you don't really know a whole lot about one, but knowledge is power. Learning more about them and learning from others that currently are ostomates can help take some of the mystery out of them and show you what the possibilities are once you have one. To learn even more about ostomies, click on the playlist right over here to learn more about the ins and outs of having one. Thank you for watching.